We're here with Brian Letendre. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background and when you first started becoming interested in acting and dancing? I know you began to find an interest when you were 15.
Yeah. Well, I started actually singing in church when I was like 7. So that's kind of what I've been doing the longest. I think I've always wanted to be in the theater or in movies or something. There was always that fascination. I started dancing late in life. I started dancing when I was 15 years old. I was pretty overweight at the time, which was fine for singing, not for dancing. So I was rejected. I went to the high school for performing arts. I got in for vocal, but not for dance because I was too big. So I lost a bunch of weight. I re-auditioned. Then I got in under the umbrella that I would lose more weight. Kept losing weight just by dancing, by the passion for dancing, and kind of jumped off from there.
Did your initial rejection due to your weight give you a thicker skin in terms of, what you needed?
Not at the time, but now. Rejection's hard, period, but I remember my mother saying to me, I was crying in the car when I found out I didn't get in, and she said, I'm sorry, honey, but, if you want to go into this business, you have to get used to people saying no. And although my mom is so far removed from this business, she was dead on.
And what was your first role that you either performed as a dancer or as an actor?
Well, as a dancer, you don't really dance a role, it's kind of a part. And I did most of that through Juilliard. And then my first actual part was I played Baby Boy in Urban Cowboy on Broadway, which is not a leading part. He's part of an ensemble, but it was really cool to get to kind of originate something that's always going to be there.
And then you went on to, you were also in My Fair Lady at Paper Mill right before that, right?
I was, yeah, that was right before I got my equity card at Paper Mill. I drove the van.
Okay. And then you were also in Moving Out.
Yes, after Urban Cowboy's short but very fun run, I was unemployed for a couple of months, and I actually auditioned for the tour, and I got it, and my agents told me not to do it at the time. So, brokenheartedly, I listened to them and stayed in the city. And then there was an opening in the New York company, so they let me in as a temporary replacement. Then I became a swing. Then I was finally in the ensemble, and then I finally actually got to play the role of James, which was pretty cool.
And then you moved into Mary Poppins, where you originated, or were in the Broadway production, and then went out on tour.
Yes, in 2006, we started rehearsals. I got to play the role of Nelius, who is kind of the most classical dancer in the piece, statue that Poppins brings to life. And I did that here, I think it was until 2009, and then I went out and opened the first national with a couple of other people from the show.
Talk a little bit about the discipline it takes to play a statue until he actually comes to life. I mean, that must be extremely difficult.
It's it is hard for dancers, especially. The hardest thing is to be still. Like, I fidget I cannot sit still. So to have the pressure of a spotlight on you and not be able to move, and know that in a second you have to do big jumps and double tours and grand jetés, and you're gonna have to move big. Nobody wants to stay still and then have to do that.
Yeah, on top of staying still, how was the makeup uncomfortable?
It took a little bit getting used to, but I will say that Disney took very good care of me on my skin. They were very cognizant of the fact that I was in that makeup, twice a show, so 4 times a day on Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's intense.
Yeah, that's intense.
It's a commitment.
So after Mary Poppins on Broadway, you went on tour. Did you enjoy touring around the country?
I did. I'd never toured, and I didn't get to go do the Moving Out tour. And I was just at a time in my life. I was born and raised in New York. It was a time in my life where I had been on Broadway. I hadn't toured. I hadn't seen the country, and the opportunity presented itself, and I wanted to do it. And it was great to play different cities, different houses, and it was a really good group of people.
Did you find the audiences are different when you're touring than they are in New York? Or is it similar because a lot of the shows are filled with tourists when they come to New York?
They're similar. One big difference is that the houses in different cities are a lot bigger, sometimes triple the size of the Broadway theater. So it's you're getting a lot more back.
When have you ever? When have your nerves taken over, and what do you do when they do take over?
Oh.
If it happens to you.
It happens to me. I can still remember opening night at Poppins. I was shaking and I had to be perfectly still. It was
Yeah.
hideous. And it happens before every single audition I ever go on, whether I'm dancing, singing, or reading, or juggling, whatever I'm doing. I just try and slow down my breathing, which sounds really basic, but that's the only thing that works for me.
And what are you doing now? I know you're.
Well,
I know you're doing real estate on,
I am,
on the
yes,
side.
I-
So how did you fall into that? Is it something you
Well,
pursued
when
on the
I
side?
left the Poppins tour,
Mhm.
and then I came back and I did Poppins again on Broadway, and then my time basically had run its course at Mary Poppins, and I felt like I had done everything I could do there, and I was happy to let somebody else come in and do that. It was my time to leave, and it was over the holidays, and I wasn't doing much, and I didn't have to do much, and I don't sit still well, as I said. So I went and got my real estate license. Sarah Salzberg, who's also an actress, she was in Spelling Bee, owns a company called Bohemia Realty. And she kind of enticed me into joining the company. It's all artists, musicians, writers, producers, and it's brilliant. I'm having a great time. I'm shopping for people and getting paid for it, and I'm still free to audition.
Yeah. It seems like that would be a perfect second career for an actor because
It beats
you pretty
waiting
much
tables.
don't have a
It's your
an
schedule.
office, or a set schedule, and you could, if you get a job, then you just don't do the real estate anymore.
Yeah, and not every company is good about that, but Bohemia, if you get a job, they wish you well, and they say come back when you're done.
Good.
It's great.
Now, what advice would you offer to people who are just starting out in the business? You're kind of the triple threat where you do all three.
Number one, don't ever let anybody tell you no. Just show them that you can. Number two, remember that nobody's going to hand this to you. Nobody's just going to offer it to you. So you got to go out and take it. Go get it.
And is there a role that you either currently that's on Broadway or one that's not playing in a theater now that you're dying to play?
Yes. It's one that has not been created yet, that is written completely around me.
Yeah. And who's going to write it? You, or do you have somebody in mind to write it for you?
Oh, I have 1,000 people I'd love to write.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to do this.
Sure.